Hey guys, it's Lauren, and today on my channel I'm interviewing Ben Pick, whose channel is Writing to Write, and we're going to be discussing his writing process.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And my first question is, how did you get started on YouTube, and what inspired your channel?
So much like I'm sure you and every other author tuber that we regularly talk to and interact with, there has been an explosion in talent on YouTube through AuthorTube for the past 5 years, easily, if not a full decade. And every single one of those people, their advice has always been, you should start, you know, today, if not yesterday. And so, I listened to that for long enough, and eventually I decided that I had enough experience, enough ideas out there that I just wanted to share. And so, with that in mind, I started developing this idea to mold both writing and running, which are two of my uh, arguably biggest passions. And they both sort of feed into each other. So, well, I guess usually running into writing is the way it normally goes. I don't really see how writing goes into running. But I would be going for these long runs and I would be thinking about the stories that I wanted to write, the plot problems that I had created, the giant gaping holes in the story that don't make sense. I would be sort of filtering through them and working on them as I was going for a run. And so I use that as a template to design these videos.
But I think it's cool because I feel like in every one of your videos you have a metaphor to running, and I'm not much of an athlete, so I didn't even think of like how writing and running would correlate to each other. So I think that's really cool that you implement that in your channel.
Hmm. Yeah, and thank you. I originally started off with the mindset of trying to do 26 episodes and see where I go from there, and now I've just sort of molded that it, sorry, 26 episodes to equate to 26 miles in a marathon. And so I've just sort of equated that into 26 episodes a season, and then I just sort of go from there.
That's really cool. I know for me, like I try not to kick myself now, but I think in the beginning, like there's this hesitation of wondering if people would like me, would like the channel, and I would say for at least like 2 years before I actually started the channel, I knew I wanted to start a channel. I just didn't know what it would be about,
Cool.
and I think that kind of like I got stuck in my own head, and just I don't know why I waited so long to do it. And now that now I am doing it. I see how much I enjoy it and how much I love connecting with other YouTubers
That's
through that
great.
community.
I'm really glad that you did, because that is a wonderful way to just share yourself with the world.
But again, I feel like a lot of times when you're doing something new, you have imposter syndrome and you wonder if you're going to be good enough, if people will like it. I think it just comes to that point where you just have to just try it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
So I'll go completely off on a tangent on this one. I actually worked with an imposter. His resume was an outright lie, and he was escorted out by security after a month. So I know what it's like to work with somebody who blatantly doesn't know what they're doing and who is actively making the project worse.
Wow.
So knowing where the absolute bottom is, so long as you're trying, so long as you're putting yourself out there, so long as you have three different written works, like you are not an imposter. I mean, no offense, you're not like Stephen King, obviously, but you are still out there and you are trying, and that means so much more than, you know, somebody else who's just sort of coming in and paying their way through and just saying like, "Hey, I got this thing out there," and like imposter syndrome is near impossible to get rid of. You
Yeah.
hear all these stories of fascinatingly and wildly talented people still waking up every morning and starting off a script or a story and not knowing where to go. But having that passion, showing up every week, that means more than just outright skill.
Yeah, and I feel like the other way of like tying it back to writing too, I feel like there are so many like works on like just out there that people just either they don't take the time to edit it and work through like plot holes. They're just like, oh, I'm just gonna publish it just to publish it,
Hmm.
and I feel like that irks me.
Yep, that's the equivalent of the resume that was a lie.
I'm sure that's infuriating because then you have to work with that person. You're like,
No, it was only a month, and yeah, I wasn't the one who actually. Well, we can. That's a whole nother topic.
next question is, what's one piece of advice that you would give to new writers?
I kind of mentioned this before, but perseverance and determination means so much more than just outright writing skills or the capability to paint a beautiful picture with words. It means much more to show up every single day or however often you write and set aside those 20 minutes, set aside however much time you have to write and eventually get something done. So long as you have that mindset and that I hate to say it again, but determination. So long as you have that
Yeah.
consistency, you will get a story done and you will make sure that it's well written. It might not be this vivid image in every scene, but it will be a skilled and a well written novel. So you can work with an editor, you can work with beta readers to improve certain parts or to point out where things need to be tweaked and added to. But I would say that I would much rather be somebody who is able to write every day than somebody who has this fascinating skill to put their words to the page.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that. There's somebody that I used to know, we're not friends anymore, but she would literally spend 10 plus hours a day of writing, and I feel like that's a good goal to have, but I feel like it's also it's unrealistic to keep going in that way because I feel like that leads to burnout, and then
Hmm.
you're gonna see writing as a chore, and that passion and that drive is just gonna fizzle out.
Completely agree.
Because I know there are a lot of people here on YouTube that can do like 10K days, and I'm like, yeah, I'm happy if I get 1,000 words in today because I
Hmm.
can't do it.
Yeah. There are good
And
days
if
and
I
there are
do
bad
get,
days.
if I do get to there, I'll be like passed out in the corner, like, hey, I did it, and sleep. I earned that nap now. Ooh, here's a good question. How do you get over writer's block?
The bad answer is I bash my head against my computer until something comes out. Uh,
Or cry and think like you just stare at a blank screen, like please, please go come, please
yeah.
words come.
So the better answer, the more realistic answer, is that I set a time limit. So if I haven't written anything, or if I am just typing the delete key, the backspace more frequently than I'm actually putting words on the page for 20 minutes, then I know that I'm not doing a productive writing session, and so I will go off and do something else. I will clean the house. I will walk the dog. I will do something that doesn't require much, thinking, processing, whatever. And I will be thinking about what I want to write while I'm doing that menial task. And I found that when I come back to it, I have more ideas or I have a starting point to go from there. And yeah, it doesn't always work out. It's life. Life is never perfect. But it does help me still feel productive. And I know that if I'm not productive for 20 minutes, wasting an hour isn't going to be that helpful. So instead, I focus elsewhere while I'm still thinking about a specific task, writing, and then I can come back to it later, and it usually helps resolve whatever immediate problem I had.
Oh, I like that answer. I think too. For me, is sometimes like trying to like take a step back and do something that's creative, like not writing but something else that's creative to try and like help inspire you and get those juices flowing, and then coming back to it. That also too might help like light that fire and help you get back to what you were working on.
Wonderful. So what do you do that's your creative outlet aside from writing?
Um, Coloring, um, listening to music, watching anime or shows or television. Just I guess like something else that's creative that doesn't require writing. And I feel like sometimes a lot of times like film and television is a good avenue to like explore because again it also like stems from writing. I mean somebody had to write the scripts for their shows and films.
Cool. Yeah, those are all great outlets.
So I noticed that you cover a lot of different topics of writing on your channel. What's one area that you haven't discovered? What's one area that you haven't discussed yet, and that you'd like to discuss on the channel?
This this list is endless. I mean, I've only done 30 episodes, so there is the entire writing outlet, everything in writing. I either haven't covered or I haven't covered enough.
Or I mean, even something that you've already covered that you'd like to go back to and dive deeper into it.
I really want to go into the editing process. I've seen a lot of people who might show the writing process of how to publish, but they don't really dive into what you can expect from, say, editors. So there are some people who might show you cost benefits of various professional editors, but
Mm-hmm.
I've already experienced some very wildly different results when it comes to editors. So I'd like to, or I'm planning to, come up with a couple of videos with that, where I can sort of critique the critiquers.
But no, I mean, like, I get what you're saying. To like, exploring like what kind of feedback you would get from an editor,
Hmm.
and kind of highlighting like what to look for and like what not to, I guess, follow. Because like, I feel like for me, when I have things edited, sometimes it's like word choices. And I'm like, but especially with dialogue, it's like I like how the character spoke,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like then like you might think, okay, dirty editor, dirty expert, should I cut this out or not?
Yeah, and I have pages of notes on this, but it is. Uh, you're the writer. You know those characters better than they could ever, and it comes down to your best judgment.
Right, but I feel like when people are just starting out or they're new at writing, they don't have that confidence in themselves. So they think, okay, they're the editor, they're the expert. Maybe like, I don't want to follow their advice, but if they're the expert,
Mhm.
maybe I should.
Yep.
And then they regret that choice.
Well, it's the same thing with beta readers too. I mean, I've had beta readers who told me explicitly one thing, so I might like change or rework a scene, and then everyone else after that is like, "Why would you do this? This doesn't make sense." So I end up cutting it. So it's again, you're right. It comes down to that confidence thing where you need to understand your story and no matter what, for every single sentence in your story, somebody will love it and somebody will hate it. So you got to try and just balance out what you want and what makes the most sense.
Yeah, I mean, I know for me, like, I've been told that I am too descriptive,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, that's just my style of writing, so I'm trying to be condensed, like, a little more condensed with certain things, like with scenes and like reading things like, okay, I'm gonna read the whole page, and if the whole thing is nothing but descriptive, maybe look for something to like cut down or take out. But I don't know if I could deviate from that if that's my way of writing.
Right. That would actually be really good topic. I think I did something about like identifying your writing fingerprint, but trying to maybe change the way I wouldn't really want to change the way you write because that's what feels most comfortable to you, but maybe find a way to evolve it or find a way to adapt it or to tweak it. So you're still fundamentally doing what you do best, or the writing in the way that makes the most sense to you, but you're still honing your skills a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. I've seen some channels where they'll try to imitate like writers that they like and try and write in that style,
Hmm.
and I feel like that's a way of like trying to change the way you write. That's kind of hard.
Oh yeah.
Cause I feel like at the end of the day, like I would fight it, and like my writing voice would still come out. It's like, okay, like say you're trying to like, say if you were trying to write like Stephen King, and then yeah, like halfway through, like, wait a minute, this is how I write. This isn't how you write.
Hmm.
Oh well, that's a good idea. So for your current writing in progress, do you plan to self-publish or do the traditional publishing route?
When I first started, I was planning to self-publish, but you mentioned that AuthorTube community, and there have been so many people with really good advice and really good strategies to send out those query letters. So I figure I am going to at least take a shot at it, send out my query letters, see whether or not there's interest. If nothing else, they can help hone in on what makes the stories that I want to tell interesting to other people and maybe appealing to other readers. And then if that doesn't work out, then I still will self-publish.
That's a
So,
really good idea, and then that way, like you said, if you don't get any interest or anybody that wants to traditionally publish it, then you can still self-publish it and still get that story out there.
agreed. And it's not even that, oh, when I put it that way, it feels like I'm failing at traditional publishing and then going self-publishing. But it's also getting all of that material together for the query letter I can then use for marketing material or to hone down and to polish my story into its like core essentials. And then I can use that in my own marketing for self-publishing.
Yeah, because I feel like that's the like misconception that people have of traditional publishing and self-publishing. That if you get traditionally published, they're gonna do all that work for you.
Hmm?
But I feel like even if you get a company to pick it up, you still have to market it and get the book out there. Like they're not gonna do all that for you.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean that would be that. I mean that would be cool though. Because it'd be like, oh, my job's done. I wrote the book. I don't have to do any other work.
All you gotta do is be a famous author. Everything comes easy then.
And have money rain down on me. Yay!
Hmm?
I feel like that's the life, man. That's what people think will happen when you get your book picked up by a traditional author.
If only.
Right.
I'm trying to remember the numbers, but I heard that like a book might only get 200 sales and across its entire lifetime, and those numbers are even worse for a first-time publisher.
Yeah, that's not daunting at all. Thanks a lot.
Eh.
Just gonna look at the bookshelf of all the other published.
Well, that's like average, and I have no idea where that came from. It's probably for like a certain genre or something.
No, I mean I don't know. That's a good thing to look up and see because different. I think that's a good point. I think different genres do sell at different volumes.
And
Because
it's
there are
also
some there are some genres that are more popular than others.
it's also that if it's like your lone book, then it's really hard to sell. But if you have, say, 20 different books, then you can get people who would like this book, then they might try out that one. And so that when you have a bigger library, it's easier to sell more of your own books. But until you get to that point, it's much harder. And again, when you have 3 different works, you can use that to help feed the other one.
That's the goal, right?
Hmm?
I've heard that for those like doing the traditional publishing route, that it's harder to try and pitch a series than a standalone book, especially like being a first time author. Do you think there's truth to that?
I have no idea. I have no insider information. I've heard both sides, so both verifying that and contradicting it from different author tubers. So who honestly knows?
What's the biggest obstacle you have to overcome as an author?
Going back to it, confidence.
Yeah.
It yeah, I mentioned the whole imposter syndrome thing, but we, I'm assuming here, but we both have mentioned that we follow various author tubers, and so we can see somebody start from day one, book one, page one, all the way to published, and they have some fantastic works out there. And so you have these really outgoing and engaging personalities and these
Yeah.
wonderfully published books. It can feel daunting to try and throw yourself out there. And as supportive as you have been, just in this conversation, I have had works just completely torn to shreds by beta readers, critique partners, whomever.
Yeah.
And I've also had some that were, really risen up highly, but there still is that point of somebody going beyond this story isn't for me to just rip something apart. Like, I didn't like this character. I didn't like what this plot point does. This is just written terribly. Like, those things weigh you down. And so just finding a way to overcome that is difficult. And coming back, day after day, you mentioned yourself that you have your own doubts. And
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was for this current episode or the one that we just recorded, but looking back at your previous works and you just sort of cringing, I mean, that's both a really good confidence booster and a really, something that breaks up your
it can be
confidence.
bad. It can be bad too because you're like, I was like, okay. I think it can be good and bad looking at your previous things that you've written because you see where you start at and like where you've improved. But then at the same time, you're like, why didn't anybody point this out to me that I like when you see all the flaws in it, you wonder why nobody else pointed that out to you.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, like I said, the most difficult thing that I struggle with is just confidence.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I feel like sometimes I have more to prove because people see my disability and just assume like I'm not gonna be a very good writer because there are gonna be things that I'm not gonna notice, and it's kind of infuriating because like, why should that be an issue?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you just like look at the thing that I wrote and judge it on that merit itself?
Yep.
And
yeah.
I feel like for me, I feel like that's like where my confidence comes in because I've had many people like make that claim to me.
I'm sorry. Despite the barrier of entry being so low in some cases, where you mentioned that there were published books on Amazon that have grammatical mistakes or, this, that, and the other thing where it doesn't make sense or it doesn't line up, there are still these gatekeepers there who can just rip things to shreds, who can tear down your confidence for whatever reason. And so finding a way to overcome that, it is great that you still are, that you're writing, that you're not letting, whatever somebody else might think or whatever, you're not letting that hinder your writing. You still have 3 great works
Yeah.
out there and you still are just writing for the fun of it.
But I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like that's what you have to do because if you let those things tear you down and give up writing, then you kind of let them win.
Exactly.
Cool. Man, that question got deep. That's okay. It might help somebody else out that's watching it. I thought this question was interesting. So, if you weren't doing YouTube, what's something else that you would be doing?
Well, the easy answer is running, but I can only do so much of that, and especially this week, man, it's been rough. But yeah, I got all kinds of other hobbies. So, love playing video games. Thanks to COVID, I actually have a group of friends that I now weekly play this old game, Age of Empires 2. So something that came out in 2000. We are still playing it. It's a real-time strategy. It's a lot of fun. We just get together once a week and play it all and try not to annoy each other. Each of us have our own strengths and weaknesses, and it's been a lot of fun playing with them. I'm also a avid reader. I've I usually only have one book that I'm reading for fun, but I'm also doing like beta reading, critique partnering, and just seeing what other writers are doing. And all of this just sort of feeds my own creativity. So let's see, we have reading, we have playing video games, we have just walking with my dog, just being outside, exploring.
Yeah. I feel like traveling and music are definitely like the two biggest things that help inspire me and give me ideas.
Hmm?
Plus, too, I feel like when you go out in nature and travel, I don't know, it's like a different way of exploring things that are around you, and I
Hmm.
feel like even that in itself can be a good way of motivation.
Oh yeah, so I live near Alexandria, but I used to live right near Crystal City, Roslyn. I used to live near Roslyn. And so I was right near all the national There's this thing called the National Mall, which has, it has the Washington Monument, which you can see from pretty far away. It's this giant obelisk standing up, and then there's the Lincoln Memorial. There's Roosevelt Island. So there's always fun places to explore. And Roosevelt Island is actually this tiny little island in the middle of Potomac, and it feels like its own kind of secret paradise. Like it's really well wooded. There's these there's a couple of statues in there, but it's just a fun place to explore
Oh
that
yeah.
I drove by for years. And when I finally went to it, I found out what this nice little treasure right near my house was.
What made you decide to go and explore it?
Mileage. It's right along the Potomac, so it's a good place that I was running, and I just sort of saw a bridge, saw a bunch of tourists walking towards it, and thought, why not? I'll check it out.
Like, ooh, what's over here?
Basically, yeah.
So, as you mentioned that you are outside of writing and reading for fun, that you're reading for beta readers
Hmm?
and critique partners, things like that. So, do you have any advice for people that are looking for beta reader or critique partners?
Absolutely. There are countless places. I hate promoting it now because of all the stuff that happened recently with it, but Facebook or whatever they call themselves, Meta or whatever, they have specific groups designed to finding beta readers. I think it's actually called the Beta Reader Group. There's also AuthorTube channels and BookTube channels, and all of those have weekly things where somebody will just say, "Hey, I have a story that's ready to go. It's 50,000 words. I have a chapter. It's 3,000 words. Can somebody take a look at it? Tell me what you think." And then there's YouTube. I actually found a bunch of beta readers and a Discord channel that we now joined through a different AuthorTuber's channel. So,
That's really cool.
well, there's also forums you can just type into Google. There's this thing I've used called Critique Circle, which is chapter by
What's that?
chapter. You put it out there, and then people, up to 7 people, can review it. That's hit or miss. If you want to pay money for it, you can get a lot of fast iterations. I don't. So it's one chapter, and then I need to wait like a week before I can post the next chapter. So it's very, very slow process there. But it does allow you to get up to 7 people to review it, which helped for the first couple of chapters.
Yeah.
Then you start getting to like chapter 10 or so, and you'll have people who are just picking up there, so they don't necessarily know the full backstory of all the characters. So there are diminishing returns for some of these things, but again, I would strongly recommend, AuthorTube. Uh, just type in Google looking for beta readers. There's online forums, so use the internet. Find people. Find a community.
I know. I feel like that's like the biggest thing that I'm still struggling with. Is like, all right, I finished this manuscript. I need like critique partners or beta readers. Like, where to go?
Well, so you have your own channel too. You can just say at the end of an
Yeah.
episode, like, "Hey, I have this. It's ready to go. It's X number of words long. Would anybody just post in the comments who would love to beta read it?"
That's a really good idea. I'm gonna have to try that because, like I said, right now I'm trying to edit book 2 of the Hunted Theory, and I feel like when I get done the passive edits, I'm gonna want somebody to look at it because I don't like editing.
That's
I
fair.
know I have to do it, but I don't like doing it.
Well, you know what? This is an open offer. If you are ever looking for beta readers, just come onto my channel, post something in the comments for whatever video, and just say, "Hey, I'm looking. Anybody interested?"
Sweet.
Always willing to help out another author tuber.
I mean, that's how you build connections through here. Like just trying to help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
Last question. Dun, 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 dun. So now that you've said that you made some connections through AuthorTube and YouTube, are there any like bigger channels that you would like to collab with?
Ooh, that is a tough one. I would say yes. Short answer, yes. I would love to collaborate with anyone. It doesn't matter, big,
Anyone willing,
small.
right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I don't have anybody set in mind. I just love interacting and talking to another fellow author tuber, another writer, just learning how you developed and honed your craft, where you started from. This has been just a wonderful conversation, whether we're recording this or not.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I definitely like the idea of reaching out to other creators and collabing with them. I think sometimes people are afraid to reach out because they think like they're gonna get rejected, and the answer will be no. But
Yeah,
even if they know, like at least you still reached out and tried.
absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, I have postponed uploading a specific episode for the past 3 weeks because the newbie tag came up, the share the love tag came up, this interview came up. And so I have a schedule, I have recorded episodes, but I have no problem pushing it back to do a collaboration, is my point there. Sorry, I didn't finish that thought.
That's good though to have like a backlog of videos. I saw recently that like some people like batch record videos and upload.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Barrett Laurie's video was great.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what I need to do because like sometimes there'll just be like not enough time in the day to record a video,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't do it.
Nothing wrong with that. If it doesn't fit in your schedule, it doesn't fit.
But I think too like sometimes it can be hard to batch record a video if like you're not doing a series because it's like I already got one video out the way. Now what do I do?
Yeah. And this video is different because it's much more interactive, it's much more engaging. I don't have a script, so it's a lot less stressful. But most of my videos, I mentioned, they take like 2.5 hours to record, and after that, I am just drained. So I can do the batch edits, no problem, but the actual recording, I need to wait a week.
Yeah. So you're saying you wouldn't be able to do more than one video in a day?
I tried and failed. That is definitely something I'm working on, trying to bring that time down, but it's rough.
I mean, it's all. I feel like it's more power to you of having a script to go off of. I feel like when I try to script my videos, then I'm like more anxious and like I overthink it more and I mess up more and just like going off the spot.
Yeah, I mean, you saw we already cut things and things that I said will be edited out, but you saw what happens when I try to speak without thinking about it first or having a script. I mean, like I said, I have my cheat sheet right here, and yeah. I mean, if I don't have an exact design of what I want to say, then I will absolutely misspeak. I will say the wrong thing. I will start rambling.
But these story times are fun because that's how people get to know more about you by your tangents.
Yeah, that's true. And then they'll realize how incoherent I am and wander away.
An hour later. Just still going. It's like, why? I think I've only done that like twice in a video, and then like I had to like go back and like cut entire section. I'm like, this isn't really relevant to the video.
Yep. even with a script, I've been halfway through reading something or speaking to the camera and just realized this makes no sense, and so I've gone back and just been like, I'm going to cut the last 5 minutes.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me for this interview and discussing our writing process. You can go over to Ben's channel where we got to talk about more about the writing process and some of the issues that people can have when starting their writing journey.
Yep. Running to write.
Yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Until next time, bye!
See ya.